An old friend, Josh Morrissette, joins us as special co-host on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. I guess what I'm going to start off with is bring us up to date with what's happening in the life of Josh Morrissette since the last time we talked.
Yeah. Basically, I went down to Wofford for my freshman year. We had a pretty good season. We ended up making it to our conference semifinals. And it was a great time. We had obviously great teammates. I made a lot of great relationships there. We had some fun wins too. We beat Texas A&M on their home court. My roommate hit a buzzer beater against Mercer, which was fun to watch. Then we won our first round of the conference tournament against UNC Greensboro, who swept us in the regular season on a buzzer beater as well. So that was kind of cool to be a part of. But after the season, I thought it would be best for me to kind of enter the transfer portal and come closer to home. And I decided basically on St. A's. It was really between kind of BU, St. A's, because they got and gave me both what I wanted academically and athletically.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought St. A's was going to be the best choice for me. And that's where I'll be next year.
Yeah, while you're on the subject, or while we brought up the subject, the transfer portal, explain that to the listeners, because and the viewers, they just hear about it, and explain it a little bit to the lay people.
Yeah, so basically now you have a one kind of free transfer pass. So it used to be if you transferred schools, you had to sit out for a year. But since kind of COVID happened, the NCAA has allowed you to kind of get that free pass in case you either don't like the school, it wasn't what you expected, if you have like a coaching change and you wanted to leave. So basically a bunch of people put their names in the portal. You have a 6-week period where you can enter your name into the portal, and you have obviously as much time as you need to decide. So for us, I want to say the transfer portal starts about a week before March Madness starts. And it goes all the way up to May 10th. So you have kind of that zone to decide really if you want to enter it or not. And it's been really crazy the past few years with everything going on. I think over 1,000 kids entered the transfer portal this year in college basketball. About over 1,000 kids last year entered the transfer portal. So it's kind of a mess right now. I think it's something the NCAA has to figure out and clean up. But I think when these COVID years, because obviously COVID eligibility, you have a free 5th year for guys who were affected by COVID in college. So I think when that kind of passes through and we get back to normal, we won't see the numbers you see in the portal. Mm-hmm. But it's a little crazy right now with the amount of kids that can just go in and switch schools.
So now, does an AD or the coach of a particular team, are they allowed to either call you up, or does it have to be a written notice that, hey, we'd like to have you consider us to join whatever the team is and school is? How does that work? What's the mechanics there?
Yeah, so there's a huge website once you enter the portal. And when your name goes in, I got an email saying I've entered the portal and my name was in there. And once that goes in, the whole kind of college world can see it. So my number's on there, my email's on there. And coaches that are interested in you can start reaching out. Some coaches reach out to kind of get the gist on why you went into the portal and kind of want to know a situation. So it's kind of hectic, but once your name goes in the portal, everyone sees it and they start contacting you.
I know probably a lot of teams came out after you. You said BU and St. A's were the two that really attracted you the most. But do they play Let's Make a Deal, or is it just straight up come see us at the campus and talk to us, or can you do it by phone or what?
Yeah, so you can do it by phone. I think the Power Fives schools can play Let's Make a Deal, especially with this whole NIL now and college athletes being able to get paid. But kind of the lower level schools, don't really have that resource as much as those Power Five schools. So like what I did was the schools that contacted me and the ones I wanted to visit, I kind of set up visits for them. I flew back to New England to go see them and kind of made my decision that way and really just made relationships over the phone for the most part. But I was lucky because I already had a relationship with the BU coach going into it. I already knew the St. A's coach going into it. So it was really just kind of talking and catching up and figuring out a time when I could get on to the campuses.
Now you brought up NIL, name, image, likeness. That's the newest wrinkle in college sports. What's your feelings about it? And obviously, I think if you had the opportunity, you'd take advantage of it, correct?
Yes. I like the fact that college athletes are getting paid, especially after going through a year and living the life that we have to live, because it's a lot on you athletically and academically. It's a high demand. The way it's being done is a little crazy because obviously the Power Fives have more money than low and mid majors. So it's kind of like they can pay the players that they want and they can kind of offer you a full scholarship on top of a lot of money to come to their school. So they're in theory buying players to come to the school that they want. As like a school like Wofford doesn't have that option. A school like a UNH doesn't have that option. So I think there has to be some sort of reconstruction of this because it's not fair to the whole country. It really favors the Power Five, Power Seven, really schools, where they bring in a lot of money for going to March Madness every year, or football teams going to the college football playoffs and bringing in money for their schools to send to athletics. And rightfully so, like they should have that money because they win, but it's not really a fair playing field for everybody else.
The question I had about college basketball, you've had success in the high school and after at Phillips Exeter. But now once you were in college ball, was it something that just kind of took you by surprise how accelerated the programs are or how accelerated the schedules are? You mentioned that there's a lot of travel and just extra stuff that you weren't used to prior to. Just explain that to the viewer.
Yeah, I think the main differences is the speed of the game and I shouldn't mute that. Is the speed of the game really and the attention to detail that everybody puts into it. So basically, like if you're a foot off of a spot to start a play, you're going to get talked to because that could mess up the spacing for everything else. And as a high school student, you don't really think of that. You think, oh, I'm only a foot to the right of where I'm really supposed to be. But then you get to college and that's kind of harped on big because like spacing the floor and everything. So that was a lot. Travel was a lot kind of as well. You leave the day before a game, you're missing class, you're playing a game at night, you're getting back in the middle of the night just to wake up for class the next morning and do it once or twice a week all over again. So playing catch up, not really catch up academically if you do it right and time manage well, but just being able to make sure you get everything up to speed in the class you missed. But really, I think the biggest thing I learned was there's not much of a difference between those Power Five athletes and the low to mid majors. I mean, we beat Texas A&M, in theory, how you look at it, we probably shouldn't have beaten them as a roster, but you learn they're just more athletic than you. They're not better basketball players. They're not better shooters. Like they're taller, they have more length and they're more athletic. Right. But other than that, talent wise, you're just as good as them. We were just as good as them. We were better than them that day. So I think that's the biggest thing is know you do belong.
I've always said that even when it comes to high school sports, I know it's broken down by division here in the Granite State, but I'd like to see some of that wide open spaces where you could have teams that are in the Seacoast. We'll just keep it to the Seacoast for now as an example. I know the numbers of what they use to set up the divisions, the enrollment of the schools, but I think there's some teams that would give each other a challenge. Like I'd love to see the Exeter Bluehawks take on your dad's team, St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah,
I think
why
it'd be a
not?
fun matchup.
I mean, you say that and like you look like a Portsmouth who dominated D2 for however
Yeah,
many years, jump up to Division One. They win it their first year, maybe first 2 years. I kind of forget, but they've held their own when they jumped up, and we would have never seen that if they didn't make that jump.
exactly. I think I'd like to see more open scheduling. Let's put it that way. That's always been my thing, whether it's any sport. I don't care, football, basketball, any of them. Because on a given day, you proved it when your team, your college team beat a Texas A&M on any given day, you can take a team, you can beat a team. It's a mindset more than it is, and physicality, obviously, but
Yeah,
being prepared, that's the big thing.
exactly.
Well, before we get off college basketball, I want to ask you about the March Madness. UConn, uh, number 4, taking out a number 5, San Diego State. What was your feelings about how it all shook out on March Madness?
Man, I thought that was a unbelievable March Madness. I think you watch UConn early. We still watch a lot of college basketball, even though we're always in it. So they look like the best team in the country pretty early on. They had the guards to win it. They had the bigs to win it. They had the bench to win it. And even though they went on a little cold spell where they lost, I think 3 games in a row, that happened. It's a long season. And they never looked like a bad basketball team. They never looked like they were spiraling backwards. They just lost a few close games and
Right.
kind of everyone erupted on them. So it didn't surprise me that UConn won it. It was cool to see because I've played against a few of them. One of their freshmen who started, Alex Caravan, he went to New Hampton. So I played against him when I was at Phillips Exeter. I played him in the AAU circuit. So to see him win was pretty cool. And their backup big, Donovan Clingan, he played on one of my old AAU teams and with a few of my good friends. And that's a Connecticut guy. He went to school in Connecticut. He wouldn't leave Connecticut. He wanted to go to UConn and stay loyal to those people. So kind of see that those two kind of win it and like be able to grow up and play against them was pretty cool. And you look at like a San Diego State, who's a 9 seed, who honestly I had them losing first round of the tournament to College of Charleston. Because I thought Charleston was really good too. And that was a great game to see them kind of make their way through the tournament with kind of that group and like a group that stayed together. I remember them saying, instead of entering the portal and going somewhere else, was cool to see. But you have like a bunch of other upsets that happened as well. Because we played a Drake team early on in the season and they ended up going to the tournament. I think they were a 12 seed and played Miami. They ended up losing to Miami, but like they played with them. Furman was our rival who knocked off Virginia. So I don't know if we like to see that, but at the same time, to see like a school from your conference that you played against twice, saw them up close, that was interesting to see. So I don't know how much longer we have of upsets. They're definitely fun to watch, but I thought this was a great tournament and the
Yeah.
right team won it.
A lot of bracket busting there in the first round in particular.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
now we go from college to the big guys, and the NBA Finals just wrapped up, and the Denver Nuggets picking up their first ever championship. I think a lot of New England fans thought the Celtics were going to be in there, but it turned out to be the Miami Heat. And of course, a local guy from Newcastle, Duncan Robinson, was a part of that Heat team. Give me your take on what you saw in the NBA Finals, whatever about what you saw from the Heat or the Celtics, and then right down to the champs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously being a New England guy, I had my Celtic jersey down south. I wore it every single game. At school, people would make fun of me, but I wasn't embarrassed by it. No, I think game 7's obviously tough. Jason Tatum rolls his ankle first 20 seconds. You don't make excuses, but it might be a different game if that never happens.
Right.
But when you watch kind of that series, Miami hit shots, a lot of them, especially guys you didn't really expect and guys you didn't really see in the finals make the same shots, but they played the right basketball. They got the right shots every single time. A lot of the shots weren't heavily contested that they were making. So I kind of thought the Celtics lost sight a little bit on the defensive end. and gave Miami a lot what they wanted. I mean, you talk about Duncan Robinson, you can't leave him open from the 3-point line. And he ended up finding himself open at the 3-point line a lot. So I think that's kind of where the Celtics went down. But obviously, that was a fun series because you come back from 3-0, but it's a Celtics thing to do. You give New Englanders hope and losing game 7.
The Denver Nuggets, your take on that first ever championship for them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you see the joy on all their faces when they win it. That was kind of a special moment. It's cool to see a new team win, especially a decade that's really been dominated by LeBron James and Steph Curry. So to see someone else win is pretty cool. But the way they kind of do it too, I mean, they played the right way. They got the right shots. And, obviously, what Nikola Jokic is going to give you on a nightly basis. He might be the best player in the league right now. He just averaged a triple-double in the playoffs. And there's nothing you can do. But a guy like a Jamal Murray who gets knee surgery, comes back, and has the playoff run he did. And they had the role players too. Michael Porter Jr. played really well. Bruce Brown, a Boston guy, actually, coming off the bench and just impacting the game in winning ways. They played the right way. They move it. And, all their guys kind of knew their role and they played it pretty well. So it didn't surprise me to see the Denver Nuggets win it this year.
If the Celtics had made it instead of the Heat, how do you think that series would have gone with the Nuggets?
It's interesting to say the what ifs. I'm obviously going to say the Celtics win it because I'm a New England guy.
Yeah.
But, I think we did a good job on Joel Embiid a few times. It's going to be hard to do that against Nikola Jokic because of everything he brings to a game. And I listened to a Draymond Green podcast on my drive home from Wofford, actually. And he was saying, like, when you guard Jokic, you got to take away one thing, either his passing or his scoring. And you can't give them both or else you're in trouble. So I don't know how you take away both. And there's actually a stat, I think every single game they scored 40 points in, they lost. So I think if you were to do it, you try to take away his passing and let him score the points. But I'm going to say the Celtics win it because I have to and I'm biased and that's just who I am. But it's definitely not as easy as a series as it kind of looked in this NBA Finals.
I love when at the press conference afterwards, they asked Jokic about, would you be there for the party they have, or the parade they're going to have in Denver? And he flat out said, they had the translator give him, and he said, no, absolutely not. He's going back to Serbia.
And he was disappointed to go to the parade because he wants to go home.
He wants to go home. Well, before we change to other sports, I want to one more thought on basketball. And I think I've asked you this before. I'm going to ask you it again. You got a high school athlete, maybe somebody that's a freshman right now coming into high school, and he wants to be successful in sports. We'll say any sport, but basketball in particular, and take it maybe to the college level. What does he or she have to do to get that mindset or prepared for eventually getting a college to look at them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and Cody and I kind of talked on this the first time we were on here. We gave up a lot during high school to get to where we were or where we are because, when all friends are hanging out together, they invite you, but you're doing a workout, you can't go. And, you miss out on weekends because you have to go to these different tournaments. So I think it's remembering, like, there's going to be a lot of time to have fun. There's going to be a lot of time to hang out with your friends, especially at school, in college. You only get one chance to play a college sport. So give up what you need to now. So when you get there, that's when your fun can start. And I'm not saying, like, don't have fun. Like, we still made a lot of time for our friends. We still did things, but we didn't do as much with other people because of us traveling to different tournaments and because of us wanting to get in the gym or on the field a little extra. So like that's a big thing, and like have fun with it. Make sure you enjoy what you're doing. Because if you're miserable, you're not going to want to play at the next level. And I think the next level too, like I think you see sometimes a lot of Division I guys transfer down to a Division II. And I think I learned this year. A lot of people learned it this year. Like, doesn't matter where you play in college. It's still a college sport. It's still going to be demanding. Right. There's still going to be expectations,
Mhm.
Obviously, you dream to be a Division I athlete if that's what you really want to do. And I'm grateful that I got there, but I'm not disappointed on dropping a level because I got there. I proved I can get there. I still think of myself that way, but I'm still playing a college sport next year. So like that's kind of remembering like, you're going to play a college sport. Everywhere you go is going to demand certain things out of you. And there's going to be different schedules, but remember, like, if you can go play in college, go play in college.
Amen. Amen. Good advice. Now we brought up, or you brought up your brother. Let's talk baseball. I know that's your second love, and you excelled at that sport too. So, what is the scoop on brother Cody and his journey to Major League Baseball?
In his game, then last night he hit his first ever cycle
Wow.
at, at the first game my mom's been to see him professionally.
Wow.
Um, so he's starting to turn the corner. Um, it was a slow start to the season for him. He would admit that too. Obviously, coming off of an ankle surgery, he didn't really get a real spring training. He got 14 days in single A in Jupiter to kind of get that spring training. But 14 days after being out 6 months isn't going to do a
Right.
lot for you. So he kind of just got thrown right into double A. And that's obviously where you want to be at his age. And he struggled early, but he's starting to see the ball better, he says. Hopefully he gets out of his head and stops thinking so much at the plate. I hope he watches this and hears that too, because he's going to want to. He's playing baseball and he loves it.
Well, that's
So
what counts. Yeah, that's what counts. And another thing I was going to say, and I think I mentioned your mom. One thing I'd love to see him do is, I know right now he's playing for the Blue Wahoos down there in Florida, but all these teams he's played with, do like a little mini documentary of his coming up through the minors, because there's some interesting places he's going to play and towns or cities he's going to be visiting along the way. And some of those
yeah,
teams,
no question.
I get a kick out of minor league baseball. I mean, just the fact that these guys like Cody are busting their butts to make it to the show. And the chances are pretty slim for some of them, depending upon what position they play or how much talent they have. And, it just it's a once in a lifetime thing for, as you mentioned earlier, for a lot of college athletes who've made it to the pro level even. And man, just to document that would be cool. I know we'd like to have rights to that so we could show it here.
Exactly. It'd be pretty cool.
Well, you brought up the family, and I want to do that as part of the 2-minute drill. I got to ask you about your mom and dad. Mom first, Kristen Morrissette, who is a successful coach with the Exeter Blue Hawk softball team. They had a great season, another great season. Um, we'll talk about that. I'll let you talk about that. And then, of course, your dad, Dave, he is completing his first year as the athletic director at St. Thomas Aquinas in Dover, and also the head coach of the boys basketball team. So give us an update on your folks.
Yeah, they're doing great. My mom, obviously, she just wrapped up her year. And they had a good year. I wish I could have gotten to a few more games than I did. I got to the 2 playoff ones, but I obviously followed her. Cody follows her all year. And she's a competitor, no doubt. She wanted to win it. So it definitely hurt her a little bit to, lose in the semis, especially to Winnicott, the rival school. But you know, she was disappointed and she really liked her senior class. So it was hard for her to kind of say goodbye to them and how much they did for her in that program, obviously winning her state championship the previous year and getting back there. But she's doing good. She's starting a kind of a dynasty over at Exeter these past few years for softball. So let's hope that continues. And she's gonna enjoy her summer, get the softball camp going, and hopefully get down to see Cody again. And then my dad's doing good. They just obviously wrapped up everything at St. Thomas and their spring season. They had a really good year for kind of their sports. Baseball lost in the semis, lacrosse lost in the semis, girls lacrosse lost in the finals, softball lost in the semis. So they had a lot of teams in those big games, and he was at all of them, so he got to watch that. And his basketball season went really well. I want to say they went 17-1 in the regular season. I think they played 18 games. And then they made it to the semifinals, and just had one bad first half, and they got into a deficit they couldn't really overcome. So in his first year coaching, to make it to the semis, obviously, you know us, we want to win. So that hurt him to not win it either, but he's excited for next year. He's getting his guys ready. I get to work out with a few of them. You know, they come to the gym with me. So see them work and put in the work, you know, it'll be good for him. It's good for him to hear me come home and say like, hey, I saw your guys are putting in the work. They're ready for next year. They're excited. So he's ready for the winter already.
You know, and I was going to say, as far as it was a transition for him, because he used to wear one of those striped shirts running up and down the court officiating. And now he's the guy on the bench that he has to watch how he handles himself with the referees.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously he coached at Riviera College for 20 years before this. So I've seen him yell at so many refs. And then he is one of those refs. And, you know, he sees the game differently. And now he's back into coaching. It's funny because he'll still yell at the ref sometimes, but he knows all of them. It's like then it just turns into like a conversation. But he's definitely a lot more mellow than he used to be back from his college days. So it is an interesting transition for him going from coach to ref and back to coach.
As a player, you know, you can see coaches that get fired up during a game. And I've seen it in the high school level, and I don't know about college level. Maybe you could speak to that. The players kind of adapt to the personality of the coach, and you know, so some of them in the high school level see a guy get away with something, a coach get away with something, being mouthy, and they'll start to chirp a little bit on the bench. What about in the college level? You see any of that?
I mean, I think you definitely see it, but I also just think it's your personality, because at the college level, everything's about winning. So we all have that mentality. And I think in like the heat of a moment, you know, a close game, you know, a call doesn't go your way, your kind of mindset, your mentality, like you're going to say something, you know, because you don't mean it harshly towards ref. You don't like want to show them up, but it's just the heat of the moment.
Right.
And I think players get punished for that too much, because if you switched roles, like I bet that ref in the heat of a moment in a game at playing would say something to the ref. And I think that kind of gets lost because, like, as a player, you're not going to say something to the ref harshly to be rude. You're going to say it because, you know, you care about winning with your teammates. And yeah, sometimes the call is not going to go your way. Sometimes the ref's going to miss something. But I think like you needed like a warning first before you just tee up a player like you would a coach, because a coach is going to get a warning first. Right. Like, we're on the court, we're giving it everything we have in the heat of a moment. Like, you can't get mad at us for getting a little upset if something doesn't go our way, because that's helping the other team win now. And
one thing I've noticed at the college level, because I did the public address announcing over UNH for a few games this year, both the guys and the gals, and the officiating crews, it's the triangles, they call it, 3 officials. And I think they're pretty neutral. Whereas on the high school level, most of these referees, and your dad can agree with this, they know everybody. Everybody knows each other, and there is a friend element there where you kind of have to watch that line or walk that line, and they'll allow you to cross it a little bit. Whereas I think at the college level, these guys, it's a machine. They go out there and they have their job to do, and they do it, and that's it.
Exactly. I would agree with that too.
Well, 2-minute drill, you know that we've done this in the past. Anything on sports or about you or your family or anything you want to throw out on the table here? Let's have it.
I'm hoping, what is it? Hopkins is visiting the Patriots. I'm hoping we can snag him, because I think that gives Mac Jones a good wide receiver 1 with a good kind of wide receiver group that they have, and that puts him over the top. And I believe in Mac Jones. I've always been a Mac guy. So
I think Bill O'Brien coming back, and Bill O'Brien knows obviously Mac Jones from Alabama. So I think that's a match made in heaven. And I think Bill Belichick's smart enough to say, hey, Bill O'Brien, he's all yours, and let him do it. No, I'm looking forward to it. You're right.
I agree. I don't know what's going on with the Red Sox. I try to keep up, but they're sometimes a little hard to watch. I think it's tough that their league's so good. You know, you look at the AL East compared to the AL Central, they're all better than them, but they can't really do anything. Tampa Bay is just loaded. So I think Tampa Bay is going to walk away with the East this year. And I hope the Red Sox can kind of keep up and just grab a wild card, but it's a little rough.
Kind of surprised that the Yankees are kind of mediocre this year. That surprised me. They've got Aaron Judge with a $600 million contract, and he is doing his part when he's not hurt.
It's weird seeing the Yankees and Red Sox at the bottom of the division.
Yeah. And the other thing is that pitching for both teams, the Yankees have 3 or 4 guys on the IL, and the Red Sox, their big gun, Sale, just can't get off the IL for any length of time. He has fits and starts, as the old saying goes. And I think that's a big battle for both of those teams. They need solid pitching, and it just isn't there right now. They're getting okay pitching, like Paxton and Whitlock, and a few are coming through at times, but it's
too inconsistent there.
Yeah, it's not consistent. You're right. The Bruins, were you disappointed in the way that went down?
I think even being a basketball guy, I think people can admit playoff hockey might be the best playoff sport to watch, just because you can't play that hard all year. So I definitely would kind of lock in for it. It was a tough pill to swallow, because you watch a few games. I watched their record-breaking game in the regular season, and I obviously have a bunch of hockey kids from Phillips Exeter and Exeter High School that I talked to, and I thought they were going to win the Stanley Cup. I think everyone did, and to go in the first round, kind of unlucky, because when you look at the record, Florida Panthers, I think, was the one team that had a winning record against the Bruins or something. Like, they did get the Bruins more than once.
Right.
But going up 3, Celtics had like the same problem. You're up 3-1. You got a game at home to close it out. You got to close it out. You can't give the other team hope. And the Bruins went back to Florida. It's a tough place to win. And then game 7, obviously, anything can happen.
And it's ironic. It's ironic when you think about it, that Bruce Cassidy, the coach that they let go last year, he takes his team, the Las Vegas Knights, Golden Knights, all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and takes the cup home.
Yep.
Everybody had Montgomery drinking out of the cup with the Bruins, and Jim Tufts, Coach Tufts, had said to us back when the playoffs started, it didn't surprise him the number 8 seed, the Florida Panthers would have the success they did, and just the way the things fall. Well, I want to congratulate you and your family on a great year, and we consider you a part of the Seacoast Sports Forum family. And the best part of you coming back to New Hampshire is that we'll be, I'm sure, watching a lot of you on Channel 9 on the sports reports from here on in.
That's the plan. Hopefully we win a few games.
Well, we will. I'm looking forward to going to a few of your games too, now that you're close to home, and it'll be fun to root you on. And and I notice you're flying the colors for St. Yeah, that's good. And another thing I like about that, it's similar to the Exeter Blue Hawk colors too.
Yeah, that's what I said. I can't say I've always looked better in blue, because I love the red and white over at PEA. So,
well, I you know where I bleed blue.
I know where you stand on this one. I know where a lot of people. I'm like half and half. Half my friends stand one way, half my friends and coaches stand the other way. So I'm gonna stay right in the middle.
We're all proud of you. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
The whole.
I'm happy to be coming back here and kind of playing in front of these people again. So,
and someday on the national level, I'm sure we're going to hear your name mentioned. I know Duncan Robinson's been getting his share of the press this year. I want to hear Josh Morrissette and Cody Morrissette. Those are the 2 names I'm looking forward to hearing down the road. And just keep doing what you're doing. It'll happen.
Will do.
And speaking of family, on the 2-minute drill, I just want to send out a shout out to one of our faithful viewers and a fan of the Seacoast Sports Forum, Arthur Balageron. I saw Art at the Memorial Day parade ceremonies here in Exeter, and I'm glad that he's looking good and getting it done. The unofficial mayor of Exeter, New Hampshire, thank you, Arthur, for being a fan of the Seacoast Sports Forum. And thank you for joining us today. And thank you to Josh Morrissette. You can listen to the Seacoast Sports Forum on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to watch the episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum on our Seacoast Sports Forum YouTube page. And when you're there, hit the bell to subscribe and like us. And if you have any sports photos or game videos you'd like to send us or comments, seacoastsportsforum@yahoo.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.